Thank you. It is 4 o'clock. This is a regular monthly meeting of the Augsburg Bridge Port Authority, Thursday, November 5th, 2020. Call the meeting to order. Mr. Lawrence, any letters of communications?
Yes, sir. I think the board read file, does anybody have any questions on the board read file? I think it's we're all familiar with most of that.
Was that the first time that salt ship had been here?
That ship, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Compass has, yeah, and that, the history with that is they believe Algoma purchased that just to service Compass Minerals. So that's the name there, and I think the ship was built in 72 or 3. As far as that, it was the first time it's been here in the 20 years I've been here.
And the ship was in and out, less than 24 hours?
Yeah, it came in at 8:30 and left at 6:30.
Okay.
And well, you'll see, I think in my report there, I showed that we were able to put this, a third of the salt right in the building, which that building was designed to work that way, and it had never happened. And OMLC or Adam had suggested, because we're working with Thorax and we had to move it inside to give it a try. So it wasn't as difficult. I guess it's been made difficult through the years with people saying, oh, don't take those hatches off, the roof will leak. And probably, we haven't put them back together yet, but that's probably what'll happen, but we'll have to just weather take that. But we were able to put a good portion of that salt in there and right through processing it right now. So
That would save us on moving it by a loader, right?
yes, yeah, yeah. It,
Anybody have any questions on any of that communication to the board? Any comments? If not, we'll move on to approval of the board minutes, October 8th, 2020. Hasn't called in, has he?
No, not yet. He did review them though.
He did review them? Were there any changes that he mentioned?
No, there weren't any changes.
No changes?
No.
If someone would like, Mr. King usually gives us a report on the minutes, but as Anne-Marie said, he has reviewed them and found that no changes are needed. Motion's been made
I'll second.
and seconded. All those in favor of approving the board minutes of October 8th, say aye. Aye. Opposed? They are approved. Reports. Mr. Lawrence,
yeah,
do you have anything before we go to finance?
no, I don't. Just going by the regular reports there.
Okay. Mr. Coffin.
Well, I'll make a brief report because we may cover some of these topics in further discussion. We reviewed the proposal on selling surplus land and we'll forward that to the board. We discussed preparation of the budget for the upcoming fiscal year, and we didn't discuss specific numbers, but rather premises about how to project, primarily how to project income and then its impact on how to project expenses. And in light of the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on the OBPA revenue, there's a great deal that really is unknown. We decided to be very skeptical about projecting any recovery of bridge toll income and to be very skeptical about projecting any further federal aid such as the CARES Act. Should those things happen, we can revise our planning, but at this point they are not objective things that we want to try to make plans on, which calls for us to look at the level of operations that could be maintained with the lower income that implies. and to consider changes in both staff and operations. And I don't know whether it'll be at this meeting that we'll discuss budget in further detail, but at some point we need to do that.
I think we planned on, we're not quite through everything. We had a couple iterations that the
Yes.
Finance Committee had asked us for,
Mhm.
and we're not quite through with that, but we do have something that we'd like to discuss in executive session
Certainly.
that relates to that, with them. And then from this meeting, I think we can talk about scheduling a finance committee meeting.
Mhm.
And then we'll take it up,
Yeah.
the budget for them.
And I just want to make sure that everybody else, because we didn't take formal actions on these assumptions, but I wanted to make sure that this was a reasonable, fair statement of the assumptions. And that's the report.
Thank you.
Yep.
I think, like you mentioned, it's hard to come up with a budget since we've never been through this before. We have no idea when the border may open. There's no question, there's no hiding the fact that our revenue is down because of that, because of the lack of planes out of our airport due to COVID. As we proceed, as you mentioned, Chris, we need to be very careful on however the authority operates going into 2021.
Yeah.
Are there any questions or anything else for Chris? No? Okay. Move on to the income expense report. Patty?
Looking at the statement of financial position, which is the first report, just a couple of highlights. Our accounts receivable as of September 30th were 1.368. Of that, 1.220 can be attributed to the wind turbine project at the port. So our regular receivables, if you will, are quite in line with what they should be at this point. And if we go down to our accounts payable are 1.66 at the end of September. Of that, 703 can be attributed to the wind turbine project, again bringing our accounts receivable just below $1 million, which is where we'd like them to be lower than that, but they're not growing exponentially at this point. Other than that, I think our statement of financial position is self-explanatory unless someone has questions on a particular line item.
No?
Okay, then we can go on to the budget versus actuals. First, we have the bridge fund. Our numbers have changed, but our assumptions and our observations have not changed. The bridge tolls, of course, we went very conservative with the estimates. Our truck traffic is still strong, keeping us over what we had anticipated we would bring in. Rental income is off primarily for the duty-free that is not open. And other income, much of what is not coming in other income is the advertising income that we would normally have. Salaries and wages, I did check, and we will correct this for the October statement. The wages appear over budget at this point, but I moved some of the director of industrial development into the port because he assists with the leases, et cetera, there. We didn't take him out of the bridge, so that will bring the salaries and wages here under budget when I move that out. Payroll taxes and employee benefits, we've discussed the assumptions that were made on last year's budget. So we know that this will continue to be over budget. Our insurance is all in now instead of being a prepaid expense. I believe there must be a better way to show this so it doesn't seem as an over budget item. I think what we might have to do is put all of the budget in for the whole year because we're accepting all of the expense as they come in. So I'm thinking it might need just a bit of a tweak there. The interest expense is still under budget. All of that has been corrected, and it will be corrected in the October statements. So I don't think you will see any under budget there. Maintenance, bridge maintenance, we're trying very hard to defer what we don't absolutely need to do. Utilities are just about bang on, and general expenses, our overages tend to be legal in nature. Any questions on the bridge fund? Just the straight income and expense for the different areas of the port fund, the airport, the industrial park, marine terminal, and railroad. These show us just the monthly figures, and you can see that in September, the airport received $195,000 worth of CARES Act income, which continues to help them. The industrial park is still doing well with their rents. The marine terminal is doing pretty well, and the railroad hasn't had much activity. If we go to the year-to-date sheet, our rental income is up for September, and that will continue due to Veritas's buying out its lease in the industrial park. Our fuel sales and fare charges, we know at the airport, are way down. Port operating and rental fees, some of the items that had been budgeted, such as wood pellets, will not occur this year, so we know going into this that we will not need our rental fees, and salt was budgeted to begin in August, and it is just beginning to come in now, so I think we'll see that change. The wind turbine project will be completed in November, so I think we'll see the timing on that even out in the next month. Other income, of course, parking income being part of that at the airport is only about $5,000, well below their budget, which is causing that under budget for their income. The CARES Act year-to-date is at $938,000. It has truly been a godsend for the expenses at the airport. Salaries and wages, as we discussed before, the longshoremen have been put here. I don't believe they should be there. I think they should be down in wind turbine expenses. And if you look below, you will see wind turbine project is below budget and expenses. I think if we move it down, we will see those even out. The payroll taxes and employee benefits, I think, has to do with the assumed split that we gave them that was not actually budgeted. Our interest expenses, they're beginning to come right up. Maintenance, we're trying to keep as low as possible. The wind turbine project we just discussed. Utilities, the solar is all in the industrial park. I am making some changes to next year's budget so that each area that benefits from the solar gets a piece of the solar expense so that we're not always looking at an overage just for the industrial park. And general expenses are at the moment a little bit under budget, which is good to see. Our changes in net assets after depreciation, year to date, $465,000 in the red. Any questions?
Do you have any questions, Patty? Chris, you good?
I'm good.
Okay. Move on to the bridge traffic report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just for October, it was 31 days, and we've seen a very slight improvement. We've got below 90 anyway, where you can see with the 8732 with autocrossing. And trucks continue to, that was generally running anywhere from 12 to 24, and slowly, the last couple of months coming down, I think it was 5 something last week. So that's, that is, that would be an acceptable number in a normal year. You want to say, well, we had a, so I wouldn't say it's normal, but it's encouraging anyway and that's helping somewhat. But you can see when you look at the revenue, the big difference there, that's quite a loss for compared to last year's numbers. And, starting in another 3 or 4 months, we'll be comparing COVID to COVID. So it won't really, it probably won't matter. It's just, we'll probably just kind of keep using the 19 as a reference, just so that we kind of continue to agree to normal versus where we're at.
Right.
Any questions on those?
No questions? On the airport activity and occupancy report?
Okay, Amber, oh, thank you, Amber. Slight upturn in in-plane passengers from the previous month. As you can see, it has really dropped from pre-COVID. But slowly but surely the passenger counts are coming up with SkyWest. We don't have Allegiant anymore for right now. The occupancy report has changed a little bit because of the departure of Allegiant. However, the revenue from that has not changed because they did not pay for anything. So we do have more occupancy right now. We have one office in the terminal building. We have half of the ground service equipment building available, and one office. The office, the the GSE building available right now. Unfortunately, Drex Subs had to leave because they weren't getting the revenue. So that concession space is now available, but they've indicated that once we get the traffic back, they will be back. And hangars are fluctuating. I have another bite on a hangar right now. It's been, they've not been able to come in this week and get things straightened out. And I've got a bite on the office in the airport. So we'll see what we can do there.
Okay.
David?
He's online too.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Good afternoon, Dave.
Hello.
Can you hear me, David?
Yes, can you hear me?
Very well, thank you.
Okay.
We're right in the middle of reports. We're just in the middle of the airport occupancy report. and glad to have you aboard.
Are you tired, Mr. King?
Nope, not tired at all.
That's good to hear. Is there any questions anyone have of Stephanie regarding the airport? I see there is an agenda item regarding a hangar, is that correct?
Yes, that's a renewal of the
Renewal.
current lease.
Right, right. Yeah, Mr. Provan is already there, right?
That's correct.
Good. That's good. Any questions? Go to the port activity report, please.
Yeah, just the one thing you'll see on the front of the report, there's a couple photos there, and that's kind of what I was talking about in the board report. That, we were able to get probably about 8,500 short tons of salt in the western side of the building, and then right now they currently have a pug mill in the front part, and we're loading that with loaders, and they dose all of that salt with a environmentally friendly chemical that, and the product's called Dolox, and it's used mostly up in the Adirondacks and the Adirondack Park. And outside we have approximately 11,000 tons that, once that's converted to Dolox and shipped out, we'll make some more. So we figure we'll do about 3 more batches throughout the winter. This is the first time we've done something with a value-added project that we're doing for Compass, and seeing how environmentally things are going, we figured that would be something that we should try to be part of, and maybe if everything goes well, that'll be a constant thing. But just to have the shipment of salt alone is totally separate from the Thorox there, so we get an extra shipment of salt for the Thorox, which is an added, which wasn't in our report budget, but that will be a positive there. So, and then you see on my the salt log and salt summary, that's all happening now with American Rock Salt shipping in, and then grain activity has been fairly normal to date. So, anybody have any questions on any of those?
So we're getting salt in by train, eh?
Yep. Yep. We're
And it's going out by truck?
yes. We're out of the 45,000. We're probably somewhere around 22,000 we've gotten in right now. So I think we're working with ARS to try to get it all in by December so that it's stockpiled, and it's a lot easier to do that salt now rather than risk it being frozen in the cars or anything like that.
Right.
So that's gone fairly well.
Now the additive, I know they've had snow up in the Adirondacks. Have they used that yet?
No, we haven't had any shipments yet. Well, we just started 2 days ago, but we thought, oh, maybe there'll be some orders coming in, but we haven't seen anything yet.
Steve, a question. I look at the grain and the salt logs, and I'm not sure that I appreciate the significance of the information on all those lines. Are the totals what's really significant?
Yeah. Yeah, just to get an idea of, if you compare month to month, just to kind of just give you a feel of what's happening. And you, generally speaking, with the weather, it's just a sign, it just goes up and down, and then, and if you'll notice, I'm in the, I think the way that's set up, it's annually, but generally, I think of it more seasonally. So I look at September when they start doing fill-ups right through till maybe April, and sometimes you'll get a little salt activity in June when municipalities have extra money or something and they want to buy it. So we may open up a pile for that, but that's generally what we see. Does that answer?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I would try to stay aware of comparisons from one year to another and be able to see if I can appreciate that.
Yeah, and you'll notice in the grain, sometimes you'll see a different product
Yeah.
month to month. So, and Dave would appreciate that. just how markets work and what comes in, what we store and what goes out.
Mhm.
So every time we have a truck out, either with salt or grain, that's revenue going over the scales, right?
Yes, yep. Yeah, it's a receiving and a weighing rate that the customer pays. And a lot of that is total automatically through their system. So we'll
Automatic
yeah,
payments.
we'll get an automatic payment rather than, but for our own sake, we have to make sure that what they're paying us is what we did. So we still, we do a monthly, and in salt pumps, we do a weekly, and then we do a monthly, and just make sure our system matches with theirs.
Mhm.
And we do a pro forma invoice that doesn't go to them because they pay automatically. And we can use that pro forma invoice against what they send us to make
Interesting.
sure that we've got the same numbers.
Sure.
Yeah. I've been down there when the truck came through, with a load of, well, actually salt and grain, and it moves very well. And driver comes in, gets a slip on the weight, and boom, it's gone.
Mhm.
So it's a pretty quick process. Seems to work well for everyone.
Yeah, and used to be, we did kind of sending the trucks out maybe 8-10 years ago, and now the driver comes in and on his ticket, and they know where they're going, and that's all done would be through the trucking company and our customer. They do all of that, so all we do is we find that on their system where it's going, and then we put the number that goes out and match that up.
Mhm. Well, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, Dave, any comment?
No,
Anyone have any other questions regarding port activity? No? If not, we'll move to the building occupancy report, John?
Yes, we're, 100% occupied in this building. We went from 68% to 100% in building 3, if you approve the lease that's on your agenda tonight. And we went from about 85% up to 88% occupancy in Commerce Park as a whole. There's about 16,000 square feet of space left in building 1. Because it's shared space, it's very difficult to rent because the multiple tenants need to be able to get around and move product and things like that, but it's still a possibility if, you know, someone came and wanted the whole space and you move tenants around, or and there's about 4,000 square feet in building 4, mostly office. So there's a lease there with Derringer. It's about 5,000 square feet of space. It's worth about $43,000 over 2 years, and defrays about $93,000 in utility savings over 2 years. I've been working with a company out of Montreal that the past prospect that has renewed interest from some marketing that I did, and pass that on to Empire State Development for an intake to have them kind of put on paper what their project would entail. Their time frame is 8 to 12 months, and they're more interested in new construction and possibly a rail serve site in a heavy industrial park. Mac Global upstairs is renewing. That's on your agenda as well. They've had difficulty with immigration, as well as finding qualified engineers to hire, as well as coronavirus and the inability to get over the border, but I assisted them quite a bit with workforce and recruitment options, and they're working on that, so they decided to give it another year. There's a resolution on your agenda for the surplus lands in Potsdam. The appraisal was for $49,000. I'm working with another prospect that is also owned by the company that I recruited for building 11. They own two companies. Same gentleman. He's looking for anywhere from 10 to 20,000 to start out, and maybe 50 or 60,000 square feet over 2 or 3 years. So I showed space at the port, in one of the buildings in the industrial park that may temporarily suit the needs. He's probably got a 6 to 8 month time frame, but they're very serious.
Good.
Worked with another company out of Ottawa, another prospect that actually rents an office in building 1, and they're very eager to expand their operations, but basically want to pick up where we left off in 2021 or next year. I mean, once COVID's taken care of.
Right.
One prospect that I've talked to you about before has a COVID killing UV light, and I've worked a lot with Clarkson and the Center for Advanced Material Processing, and they presented them with a proposal to verify the viability of the light by actually testing it on a bacteria that has similar size particles as coronavirus. So they have that, and they're reviewing it, and they're very serious about it, and that will probably proceed, and they want to set up an affiliate here in Ogdensburg as part of what they're trying to get to market. So that's kind of a summary. There's more, but it covers the main things.
Are you finding that those that are considering going anywhere are looking for taller buildings than what we have ordinarily built in the past?
Yes, it really depends on the company and the processes and all. You would never want to build something like Building 1 again. That was for a different day and time. It was built in 1979,
Right.
and it has very, limiting ceilings. It's fine for offices, and it was fine for Mitel for making telephone sets.
Right.
But yeah, it limits your ability. I think Building 14 with, ironically enough, it ended up to be Med Edge making bomb suits, and they don't use the high ceilings.
Oh,
So it really depends. The addition that was done by, I can't remember. Breckenridge with the 27-foot high ceilings, that's actually being utilized fairly well by the company that I recruited out of Ottawa that makes telecom equipment. So they're using the racking, not
Right.
so much the real high ceilings. I actually think that Building 3 is probably most appropriate. They're roughly 18-foot high ceilings, and so it's kind of a compromise between the two. But you'll get the prospect that needs 21, 27-foot high ceilings with crane. But will it ever materialize? So you kind of, if you were ever to build another building, you have to, put it in your budget. Probably 18 foot versus 27 is cheaper to build, and yet it covers the gamut of, the various businesses that we're dealing with in the North Country and in the Ottawa region.
right. Good, good. Like you say, things have changed from when we started building the industrial park to what companies are looking for now.
Yes.
So, good, good, thank you. Anybody have any questions, John? Dave?
I'm good.
Anything else, John?
All set.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to unfinished business. Mr. Lawrence?
Please, with any unfinished business?
I think there is.
There's number one.
Oh, excuse me. I thought that was on me. Oh, as John mentioned earlier, the approval of this addition of surplus land in the town of Potsdam. And John, do you want
Yeah, why is this back to us again, John?
That went to your finance committee, so this is for board approval for the members that weren't there. You know, this was a request from an Amish family that wrote us a letter that has land next door. You know, so we looked into the property. It's roughly 48 acres, 45.8 acres. We discussed different options for pricing in a public auction and making it surplus. We reviewed the Public Authority Accountability Act, had an appraisal done. The appraisal came back at $49,000. The committee moved it forward. All the details are in here, and there'd be a public auction on November 23rd at 3 p.m. if that's what you would like to do.
Okay. Thank you. Chris? Anything?
I don't remember for sure whether we discussed this with the whole board, but this did go through the finance committee, and this is a proposal to post or offer the property at auction at the appraised price. And it does not seem controversial to me. This is surplus land, and there has been some interest in it. We'll have to see whether or not that's acted upon. I'd be game to make the motion to go forward with it if that's appropriate.
Yes, motion's been made.
Yep.
Dave?
You want a second?
Well, you're the other member of the finance committee.
Yeah, I agree with Chris. I mean, I see no reason not to go forward with it, so I would second it.
Good. Okay. Any discussion? Nadia Marie, call the roll, please.
I
Oh,
just have
oh,
a quick
hold
stuff.
on.
The Amish family is still interested, correct?
I went out there, this is probably 3 months old. I walked the site, I went and I put a stake with a drop box with the information in it and a for sale sign on it. So people who are on that road would see it and might be
Right.
interested.
Good.
And I'll go down to the Amish family and I'll give them a copy and explain it to them.
Right, okay. I just wanted to double check on that because I'm not sure what the Amish,
Oh, they would know.
their
that.
dues or down through what they would have access to as far as advertising.
Right.
So,
Right.
perfect, yeah, just, I thought we had discussed that, but I just wanted to double check, yeah.
Good, good. Anything else? Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Byrne?
Yes.
Ms. Whitty?
Yes.
Mr. Minelli?
Yes.
Ms. Corcoran?
Yes.
Motion carried.
You? Now, other unfinished business, let's move on to general administration. Item A1. Mr. Marks.
Yes, this is a approval of a supplemental agreement number 1 with the New York State Department of Transportation for the Tecker Grant painting project. Just a little history. We approved the contractor's bid amount, it was approximately $19.1 million. The original grant that we approved was 18 million. I don't have that in front of it. It was less than what so what happened was the New York State went back for more money, and instead of just putting in enough money to cover the 19.1, they put in some contingencies, and the number that you see before you, the 19,752,000 is brings the whole total of the grant to that amount, and that will cover the construction contract, as well as I do believe I brought a change order to you also, and that will be covered in that too. So there is some money left over for changes that may happen, and probably that could possibly happen next year. So that's the gist of all of it. This is a certified agreement or a certified resolution, so I'm going to read the whole thing for that. The Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority has received a supplemental agreement number 1 to the Tegra Grant Painting Project, PIN number 775376 from the New York State Department of Transportation in the amount of $19,752,000 for the painting of the Ogdensburg Prescott International Bridge, PIN number 775376. This resolution authorizes an implementation and funding of the first instance 100% of federal aid, state program aid eligible cost of a transportation federal aid project and appropriating funds therefore. The resolution states, whereas a project for the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority Tiger Grant Paint Project, PIN 775376, the project is eligible for funding under Title 23 U.S. Code as amended, that calls for the apportionment of the cost of such program to be borne at ratios as shown in Schedule A of this agreement. Whereas the Board of Directors desires to advance the project, now therefore the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority Board duly convened does hereby resolve that the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority hereby approves the above subject project, and it is hereby further resolved that the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority Board of Directors hereby authorizes the interim executive director of the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority to pay in the first interest 100% of the federal and non-federal share of the cost of $19,752,000 worth for the project or portions thereof. And it is further resolved that the sum of $19,752,000 is hereby appropriated from the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority's capital budget and made available to cover the cost of participating in the above phase of the project. And it is further resolved that in the event the full federal and non-federal share costs of the project exceed the amounts appropriated above, the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority Board of Directors shall convene as soon as possible to appropriate said excess amount immediately upon the notification by the interim executive director, and therefore it is further resolved that the interim executive director of the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority be and is hereby named the responsible local official, RLO, for the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority is authorized to execute all necessary agreements, certifications, or reimbursement requests for the federal aid on behalf of the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority Board of Directors with the New York State Department of Transportation in connection with the advancement or approval of the project and providing for the administration of the project and the authority's first instance funding of the project's cost and permanent funding of the local share of federal aid and state aid eligible project costs and all project costs within appropriations. Therefore, they are not self-legible. And it is further resolved that a certified copy of this resolution be filed with the New York State Commissioner of Transportation by attaching it to any necessary agreement in connection with the project. And it is further resolved this resolution shall take effect immediately.
Thank you. Now, out of this $19,752,000, what is the breakdown for federal aid and state?
The Tiger Grant portion is $2 million from the Fed. There is some railroad money involved, and that is 2.1, which would have been our share that the state is funding. The remaining amount is, I think it's coming out of two different funds, I can't be sure, but the remaining amount is totally funded up to this amount by New York State.
So the majority of these funds, you would say, is coming from New York State.
Yes.
Okay. And we all understand that this bridge is owned by New York State, and this grant, Tiger Grant, the federal portion is obviously something that we need to complete this. But the dollar amount that the state of New York is putting into this project, I think, reflects how important state officials believe that this bridge and the condition of this bridge, how important it is to the overall economic activity of not only northern New York, but New York State itself. And as an individual, I certainly thank them for that, and I think the state has gone above and beyond considering the changes that were made in this project. And we need to be very happy with the fact that New York State Department of Transportation has been so cooperative in helping us out with this project.
Well said, yes.
So kudos to them, and certainly thanks to the governor and all of his staff that have helped out with this project.
Yeah, over the last 10 years, basically the state of New York has put close to, I believe, just a little bit over 40 million into the bridge since 2009. I believe it was 22 million in 2010, and then you had the 19 year over 41 million, which we definitely needed.
Right. We haven't even started to talk about the 40 yet.
Yeah, as of in September, just so you know, the bridge was 60 years old.
Right.
So,
Younger than I am. Just saying. All right, the motion's been read. Is there a motion to move? Been moved, second?
I'll second that.
You get that, Anne Marie?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay? Any questions? Okay?
All good.
Okay. Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Whitten?
Yes.
Ms. Terminelli?
Yes.
Ms. Clerk Hickman?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Move on to A2. Mr. Lawrence?
A2 is, every year, we have to do, based on our compensation policy, the board has to approve an adjustment factor for management and confidential, their salary schedule. This year, you see before you, in light of everything going on, we have recommended that there will be no salary increase be extended to management for confidential employees. We just feel that any kind of, it's unfortunate, it's not, I wish it was different, but in light of what's going on and in light of how difficult things are for us financially, we may all understand what we all do and how hard we work, but we don't want to give the wrong impression to people that, that are looking at us that we're trying to do our part. And I appreciate what everybody does here. I don't want it to be this way, but when you consider how difficult it is, and that we just felt that for now, this is what we're recommending to the board.
Thank you. For those of you, the new members, as Mr. Lawrence has already stated, the board does this every year at this time. As you know, we have management confidential employees, and then we have CSEA employees. They're covered by a contract that I believe has 2 more years?
2023, yes.
Yeah. Roughly 2 more years. So that's set. But it's ironic that this year, management confidential staff, the whole staff, but just speaking to management confidential, because of everything that's been going on with COVID and everything we've asked, it's just so unfortunate that, as hard as they work this year, not that they don't work hard every year, but with everything going on, it would be nice if we could compensate them. But I think just coming forward and saying that the staff understands the difficulties that we're all in, and believe that what is right is a no increase in salary, says a hell of a lot about the dedication of our employees, as far as I'm concerned. So we need to thank them for that. And when times get better, then we'll do better. Okay? Is there a motion?
Clerk
regret, I will, it just breaks my heart. And Sam hit the nail on the head. It speaks a lot to the caliber of people that we have. And it is not a reflection of our appreciation for everything. You guys, all of you have just done a tremendous job managing an unimaginable situation that you've been put in. So I really appreciate it.
Motion been made,
I will second.
motion been seconded. Any further discussion or comments? Mr. King? You still there?
Are you looking for me?
Just giving you the opportunity to say anything if you would like.
Nope. I sorry, I didn't hear you say my name there, sorry.
That's okay, I know you are tired. All right,
No, I'm still waiting on my test, so.
oh, wow. Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Whitten?
Yes.
Ms. Terminelli?
Yes.
Ms. Kirkpatrick?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Motion carried.
And thank you again. Move on to agenda item A3. Whoever would like to handle that?
John, would you, like to?
Yeah, this is an engineering firm out of Brockville that rented an office directly above us a few years ago, looking to attract some engineers, college students that have, associate's degree or certificate in engineering to help them with some design projects they have in the United States. And they actually had a couple of employees up there pre-COVID. They're struggling right now, but have plans to hire 3 or 4. This is a renewal at the same rate, 1-year extension.
Good. We'll take it. We're glad they're interested in staying, that's for sure. And as you've already stated, John, you've been there to help them out, and I'm sure if they need additional help that you'll be there for them. So thank you. Your motion?
Make a motion to move this resolution.
Nicole's made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Ms. Whitten?
Yes.
Ms. Terminelli?
Yes.
Ms. Kirkpatrick?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, let's move on. Agenda item A4. John?
A.N. Derringer is a freight forwarder. They own their own building in Commerce Park that we had sold to them several years ago. I've been talking to them lately. As you know, they rented space in Building 4, about 5,000 square feet, and they've have a need for additional space, so I worked out an agreement with them for the former Veritas space at the rates noted. It's a 2-year agreement. Both parties have a 60-day out. And their business plan didn't support the rate. It actually got $1 more a square foot for this than the other building. And their business plan didn't support that rate for the first 2 months. That's why it's lower. I compromised with them, but then it goes up to the higher rate beginning in January.
Good.
John, I want to say something too, that John negotiated the Veritas left. We held the line with them, and they ended up paying, I think it was a little bit of a reduced rate of what they owed. And part of that, had we not rented this space, technically we would have lost a little bit on the space until we could get somebody in there, but to have somebody go in there right now really makes that a profitable space for us. And I need to compliment John on that, because that was something that we pressed on, and he was able to do that. So I just want to make you aware of that.
Good, thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Technically, we got rent twice. So.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion's been made, seconded?
I'll second it.
Been seconded. Any further discussion? Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Terminelli?
Yes.
Ms. Corcoran?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Whitten?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Yeah, that's it. Now we'll move on to agenda item 8.5.
Stephanie, do you want to take this one?
Oh, sure. Mr. Proven is a longtime tenant, and his lease is up, and he wishes to renew his lease for the same hangar. And we're happy to have him.
Good.
Is it at the same rate?
Yes.
Okay. Very good.
We have a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Motion's been made, seconded?
I'll second.
Seconded. Any further discussion? Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Ms. Corcoran?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Whitten?
Yes.
Ms. Terminelli?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Anything else, Mr. Lawrence?
No, Mr. Chairman. There was a need for an executive session.
Okay. Yes, there is. I believe for reasons of not just personnel discussion, but possible contract with corporation.
Correct, it would be 105, 2.5 of the open meetings law, which talks about employment and corporation.
Okay. Is there any,
You want to do the meeting date?
yeah, meeting date is, it's set for December 10th at 4. How's everybody's schedule? Good. Terminelli?
Yes, perfect.
Mr. King, you gonna be in Hawaii that day, or?
If you'll allow me to be, I will.
No, we might all join you, maybe. Is that a good day for you, Dave?
Yep, looks good.
Chris?
Let's assume so. I'm still trying to get my phone open.
All right, let's tentatively schedule that for December 10th at 4 p.m. Okay.
Should we also schedule the November finance committee meeting? I know we normally have a set date, but because of
Because of the holidays,
Yes.
if we were kind of putting that off,
What do you think?
would you want to do it
The
before or
23rd?
after
The Monday,
the Monday after Thanksgiving?
no, the Monday before.
Well, okay, people are available, yeah.
What's the,
It would be the
23rd.
23rd.
23rd?
23rd?
23rd would be fine, the Monday before.
November 23rd?
The only comment I have is we may not have finalized October numbers, but we could use unfinalized numbers for October.
Good?
Would you give me that date one more time?
The 23rd of November? Or it would be Monday the 30th.
I think the 23rd makes a lot of sense. And I think that unless it were inconvenient for any of the finance committee members or anyone else who intended to attend, that perhaps we should consider having our finance committee meetings at 4 o'clock instead of 3. I know that for David, 4 is often better. Is that true, David?
Yep, that's fine with me.
Good. 23rd then?
23rd at 4
4
p.m.
o'clock?
4 p.m.?
Okay.
4 p.m.?
Sounds good.
Okay, good. Before we adjourn, or go, I'm sorry, go to executive session, is there a question you have?
Not right now.
You good?
I'm good.
Okay. Thank you for coming.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Is there a motion to move in executive session? Been moved? Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Right, Dave?
Go ahead.
say we're coming out of, executive session. Motion was made by, I don't remember. Who made the motion to come out of executive session?
I did.
Made by Nicole and seconded by, who was it?
Chris?
Chris. All right, so we're out of executive session. Mr. Lawrence, is there any business to be conducted at this time?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right, in light of that, anyone have anything at all? Any comments, any questions, anything to ask of staff? No? If not, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion's been made. It is 6:02 PM. All those in favor of adjournment say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? No one's opposed. We stand adjourned.